anytime I feel burnout, I ask myself, like, well, is it because you're doing something you don't like? You know, most of the time the answer is yes. It's like, okay, I'm doing something that is just trending. It's not really me. But then right now, I think this era of my channel, I've just been really enjoying.
For our listeners who have been watching YouTube since the good old days, today's guest may be a lovely little throwback.
And warm welcome to Weylie Hoang.
Thank you.
We're so excited to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here. I always listen to the podcast.
Oh, so sweet. Well, you may know her as an OG. She started her channel in 2007. That's a while ago.
A while.
I know. When did she start as beauty, makeup, and fashion? And I'm sure a lot of you out there you guys learned how to put on a tampon from Weylie. Dude, you were like very vulnerable back then from the beginning.
Yeah.
The thing is, back then, I didn't even think anything of it because when I uploaded the video, I didn't think anyone was going to see it.
Yeah.
So like even in the video, I was like, this video is for Jessica. I filmed it for my friend. And I'm like, I'm just going to put it on YouTube. I'll send you the link.
Yeah, it's easier.
Yeah. And then months go by. I didn't even think about it. And then one day I go back. I'm like, oh, it has 60,000 views.
You're like, oh, so many people have seen this
I know.
now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But I bet you're helping like a lot of girls right now learn how to put on a tampon still.
It's crazy. Yeah, because till this day,
Yeah.
I still get comments on that video, like new comments. I'm like, people are still watching this. Oh.
But I feel like that's also the best way to start. It's
Yeah.
like something that's natural and that you would
organic.
tell a friend. Like I feel like your audience is very much just like they see you as a sister, you know,
Yeah,
like someone that
yeah.
they can look up to and learn from.
The
Yeah.
OG big sister.
Yeah, for real.
But I feel like
know.
obviously, you know, as a follower of Weylie, your content has definitely evolved with you as you have. Like now you share your hobbies like traveling, camping, your love for your dogs with your boyfriend Wah, and just your like relatable perspectives on life.
We are so excited to dive in and learn about Weylie's experience as a longtime content creator, what she thinks about the current social media landscape, what brings her joy these days, how she's been able to maintain longevity in this space, and also what's next for Weylie. So yes, welcome again to the podcast,
so exciting.
Weylie. I mean, let's go like way back. So you started your channel back in 2007, right? You were how old?
I think I was 15.
15?
14.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I was
so young.
Yeah, like a freshman in high school.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness, so young. I mean, bring us back. What made you start YouTube? And what has it been like to basically like grow up in the public eye?
So when I started my YouTube channel, that was when I think YouTube like started in 2006 or 2007, right? And so at the time, I think most people that created a YouTube channel, they didn't think anything of it. It was just like, oh, it's just another like Zanga or like, you know, another
Asian app.
Tumblr or something like that. Yeah. So then at the time, I don't even know why I thought I could make beauty content because I did not know how to do beauty. But it was one of those things where everyone just like kind of had their own style. And because it wasn't so widely done, it wasn't like widely criticized either. So you're just like, okay, well, this is me. This is like what I'm doing. So I'm just going to upload it. So when I started, I remember I was really inspired by watching other beauty gurus. And I'm like, oh, like they're doing like a smoky eye. And that's when I kind of got into makeup. And thankfully, when I was younger, my mom was like totally fine with me wearing makeup. She actually kind of encouraged that. So when I was younger and I would do like dance performances or things like that, my mom would be like, here's lipstick or like, here's blush. So I was always interested in makeup. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just make a YouTube video too because I had like a little point and shoot.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I started. Didn't think anything of it. Like back then you didn't get paid from like, you know, posting YouTube videos. That came years later. So at the time it was just something to do because also my parents were super strict, so I was not allowed to like hang out with friends after school, have sleepovers, none of that. So then that was sort of like my outlet to do something over the summer.
Were they okay with you posting videos publicly?
They didn't know.
They didn't know.
for the longest time.
Okay.
And I didn't even think to tell them because it just wasn't even a thing. It was more of just like, oh, this is just like me posting on Zanga. It almost just felt like that.
Yeah.
So I didn't tell them for the longest time until I got my belly button pierced for my 18th birthday. And then I made a vlog about it, which is not on YouTube anymore because it was just an embarrassing video. But I think my uncle saw it, which is just so awkward, right?
How did you find it?
I don't know, maybe my cousin.
Yeah.
But it was just so awkward because my uncle, you know, Asian uncle, saw me with my belly button out, right? And so then I guess he told my dad, was like, do you know your daughter is posting videos of her body?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Especially at that young of an age, I'd be like,
Yeah.
Uncle, don't be looking at my body. Like,
I know.
That's weird.
So I was so embarrassed, but then I got in so much trouble from my parents. And actually, at that point, my dad was like, you're not uploading videos anymore. But at the time, I don't think I really thought anything of it either. I was just like, okay, well, it's not like I was like, whatever. You know, it's like, sure, I'll stop posting. It's not a big deal. But I don't think I stopped. Because like, I knew my parents didn't really know how to check anyways. And so I just took that video down.
It just sounds wild. And you seemed really rebellious too.
I think I may have been a little rebellious in my junior and senior year of high school. Because everything leading up to that, I was always like the loser.
what?
Which actually, my is it AIM? AOL? The chat messenger?
Yeah.
My username used to be the loser. Like, why did I?
Like L-O-S-E-R?
Yeah,
It wasn't even like a play on words?
It was L-O-O-S-E-R because I think the actual spelling was taken. So I'm like, okay, the loser.
Oh my goodness. Wait, because that's how you just saw yourself? Like,
Yeah, that's how I just saw myself because I was like, I didn't really have friends growing up. I got bullied a lot and I moved around a lot too. So like my parents, like, I think like by the time I was in middle school, I had already moved like 3 or 4 schools. So I never really had like a group of friends. So yeah, I just felt like this is my identity. Like I just feel like a loser. So yeah.
And when you told your friends the screen name, were they like, okay, this is
No one said anything.
No one said anything.
Yeah, it was just like,
Back then we had some weird ass names.
Yeah. It was always like, mine was BB Extremes, Sweet Extremer.
I was like Twinkle Tarts, which made 0 sense. I just like the word Pop Tarts. And I was like, Twinkle's a nice word too.
Yeah. I will say, at least it was unique, okay?
Yes.
And not like us.
It's funny because Wa still remembers it because like back then I had a crush on him and like we would talk on AIM. And he's like, you remember when your username was like the loser?
Oh.
So actually he did point out, like now that we're older, he was like, yeah, why did you do that? I'm like, well, it just kind of felt like my identity.
You're definitely not a loser. I am super proud to be Taiwanese American, and it feels like such a huge part of my identity. For those of you who don't know, I spent a chunk of my childhood in Taiwan with my grandparents. Due to these experiences, I feel such a strong connection with the country and always want to be in the know of what's happening. I used to either ask my mom what the latest news was or just look up random entertainment articles, but now I have one place I can go to for all my updates: Taiwan Plus. Taiwan Plus is your go-to place for English language news, educational content, and entertainment from Taiwan. They have everything from trending international news, lifestyle content, to cultural excursions. It's all free and readily available for you to enjoy. One of my favorite shows is called The Jenny Show. It's an animation that follows a Taiwanese American girl learning to embrace the charm and quirks of Taipei. It's such a fun way for me to feel like I'm in Taiwan without physically being there. I also share a lot of similarities with Jenny as a Taiwanese American girl myself. If you're also looking to visit Taiwan, they have great shows that capture all the great eats and spots you need to hit for your next vacation. Discover a global perspective with a unique Taiwanese touch on their website, mobile app, 24/7 YouTube live stream, and social media channels. Are you ready to expand your horizons with Taiwan Plus? Search for Taiwan Plus and follow them on social media. When it comes to self-care and beauty, if I had to choose the one thing I spend the most time on, it's my hair. Mostly because 1, it's one of my favorite features of myself, and 2, I've gone on a long journey to get it to a place where I'm happy with it. However, the one thing you may not know about my hair is that it's super frizzy. After I wash my hair, it grows like 5 times in size, and I joke that I look like Hagrid from Harry Potter all the time. With that, I have to use products that really tame it down. One product that is part of my hair care routine is Wey's new anti-frizz cream. I've been a fan of Wey for a while and I've been using their products for years. So when I heard they released an anti-frizz cream, I was all over it. So what I do is after I shampoo and condition my hair, I like to put the anti-frizz cream in my damp hair and then I brush it out. I love it because, like all Wey products, it smells incredible. Like, Wey by far has the best smelling hair products. And this anti-frizz cream scent is inspired by Sydney's North Bondi with notes of bergamot, Italian lemon, violet, and so much more. And no lie, Janet legit texted me as soon as she tried Wey and was like, oh my God, you weren't kidding about the smell. So y'all, I'm not kidding. On another note, the anti-frizz cream provides up to 72 hours of frizz control plus heat protection up to 450 degrees, which is perfect since I usually blow dry my hair after. Frizz free up your schedule with Wey. Go to TheOnly TheOuai.com and enter promo code ABG for 15% off any product. That's TheOuai.com, promo code ABG. Well, Weylie, thanks for sharing a little bit about your background, how you grew up. We also learned that you left home at the age of 18 and for the first half of your 20s, like helped your family financially. And that is like a lot of responsibility to have. At the time, were you solely relying on your career as a content creator?
Yeah.
And also, like, did that impact like how you like created content? Because I feel like with pressure, it kind of creates this like pressure cooker essentially.
Let's see. Well, when I was helping my family out, that was in my early 20s. It wasn't for a really long period. I think it was for like about 2 years-ish.
Okay.
My parents, they have a small business. And during that time, their business was struggling a bit. So they needed my help. So at the time, it didn't, I wouldn't say it affected how I created content because also back then it wasn't so oversaturated, I would say.
That makes sense, yeah.
So I was just doing what I was doing and earning a living from it. And so I was so young, I didn't have like huge responsibilities. So when my parents asked me for help, like it was just a natural thing to be like, yeah, of course, you know, like they raised me. So, you know, so it's like, okay, sure, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So it didn't impact the way I made content. It was never something that I spoke about, you know, because I didn't feel like it needed to be said.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like a period in my life that happened, and like I was glad that I was able to help my parents out.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
incredible that you were at such a young age able to help your parents out too. What small business did they have?
They still have it actually. It's a flower shop. Yeah, my parents are florists.
Where's
Oh
it
my
at?
God,
Let's give
it's-
them some support.
Yeah, it's in the Bay Area. Yeah, we've had that business for a long time, and people who have followed me for a really long time, they may have recall like seeing vlogs of me delivering flowers. So like when I first got my driver's license, that was like my way of contributing to the shop. So then I would deliver all around the Bay Area, which is actually like it was like a very annoying job at the time because I was like, "Ugh, I don't want to be delivering flowers on like my summer break." But then now looking back, I feel like it made me a much better driver. I'm so good. Like all my friends know this about me. I am so good at remembering directions. Like if I've driven to a place once, most likely I'll remember how to get there again.
Without navigation?
Yeah. Like I
Damn.
hardly use navigation because I'm really good at remembering places. And I think it was because of delivering flowers.
That is amazing. That is a skill I wish I had. I
don't
still
have
set
that.
my GPS to come to the office.
Oh, see, going home too. So bad.
Mostly because if there's like a shortcut or if there's traffic.
Right, yeah.
That's why.
Right,
That's what I
right.
tell myself.
Yeah.
I think I could get back.
It's a security blanket. It's okay. I do it
It
too.
is a security, but that is a skill. That is a skill that you definitely picked up at an early age.
Yeah. At the time, I was just like, oh, this is like the worst. Because
Yeah.
at flower shops, you can't ever run the heater. So like when it's
right,
cold,
yeah.
you just have to like deal with it.
Yeah.
Because it's just, if you turn on the heater, the flowers die. So then it was just something that I really hated. Like now looking back, it really provided like some important life skills.
Yeah, for
Because I also have to
sure.
deal with customers. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so cool that your parents still have the flower shop too,
Yeah.
and it's
They
still
do?
running. Yeah,
I love
they
that.
survived the pandemic too, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but you know what's crazy? Like the shop actually did so well during the pandemic because so many people passed away and so many people got sick. Yeah. And prior to that, they had a restaurant business.
Wow. Dang, your parents like entrepreneurs.
They are.
They are. I think it's like the classic like American dream, right?
Yeah,
like our
for
parents
sure.
come here and they're like, okay, what can we do? And it's like the ultimate dream to start a business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the American dream, I mean, is this the life, like the life that you're living now? Is this what young Weylie at 15 had envisioned for herself? Like where you are now?
Definitely, I didn't envision this. I am so beyond thankful for this. I mean, this is a very unique job. And I think a lot of people now, like I've even seen articles where they will interview like high schoolers and they're like, oh, what's your dream job? And a lot of people say like becoming a content creator. So
crazy.
it is really wild that this is recognized as a job now because before if I told someone like, oh, I make YouTube videos, they're like, get a real job.
Yeah.
You know? So I never would have envisioned that it would have taken me this far and that I would still be doing it and that people still watch. Because, the content has like evolved a lot. Every step of the evolution, I'm always like, they're not going to want to see this. But then thankfully people do continue to follow along. So Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
When you were younger, did you envision like a certain dream job and this was perhaps just like a fun thing to do? Like was there anything else that you kind of envisioned for yourself in your future?
Yeah, actually, I had a lot of dream jobs growing up.
Ooh, okay.
Like at one point, I wanted to be a cop.
Oh, okay.
I just thought it would
Was
be
it from
cool.
all like the Hong Kong like cop shows? Or
I think
something?
so. I think so. I was like, I'm gonna be a cop. Like, I could see that. And then shortly after that, I think I wanted to be like a designer.
Oh, okay.
But then I don't know like your experience growing up, but for me growing up, my parents, because for them like, oh, coming to America, the American dream, like my children, they need to be like entrepreneurs or doctors or lawyers. So then I would used to sketch a lot, like, and I would like draw a lot. And then my parents will see me doing that. And then they would ask me like, oh, why are you always drawing? And so I would say like, oh, when I grow up, I want to be a fashion designer, or like I want to be a car designer or something. And then my dad would be like, what? So you're just going to hold a pencil and like what, like how are you going to be successful? Like you need to dream big. And so I think at a young age when my parents kind of like shut that down, I started thinking about all these different jobs to impress them. So I don't know if it was really a dream of mine, but it was more of a, like I wanted the validation from them. Because I noticed that when I told, like one day, like I think I told my parents, like, I want to be a businesswoman. And my dad was like, smart.
Yeah.
That's my girl. And so I had so many dream jobs, but I don't know if that was really a dream that I wanted.
Yeah.
Like I would say that, oh, yeah, I'm going to be a businesswoman, which I guess now I kind of
You
am.
are.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
for
yeah.
sure are.
It's
Yeah.
like it's like kind of weird to say that because I don't feel like a business girl. No. Like,
I feel you.
I'm just like figuring it out still.
Yeah.
It feels like. But then and then YouTube kind of happened. And so when I went to college, I thought I was gonna like my dream when I went to FITM was like to one day maybe work corporate for a beauty company.
So you
And
went to
then-
FITM, so that was your like path, like a design, fashion, that type of path too.
Yeah, but the funny thing about that path too, though, it was just like I guess this was my rebellious time in high school. While everyone was applying for colleges, I don't know why, but I didn't even think to apply. So then by the time everyone was talking about getting accepted, I was like, oh crap, like I didn't even do that. So then I went to a college fair that like my local community college hosted. And then FITM, they had a little booth there. And I was like, oh, I guess this is cool. Like this kind of aligns with like what I do on YouTube.
Yeah.
They had a major called beauty, merchandise, and marketing. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Like this is what I'll do.
Yeah.
And because it's like a private college, like an art school,
Yeah.
the admission was so easy. So then it was more of like, it was like my last resort that I had to just like hurry up and pick something or else my parents were going to be pissed at me for like not doing my part in like applying for colleges.
Dang.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Like, were you also inspired by watching The Hills?
I only watched like a few episodes.
Oh,
I never
okay.
really
Was
watched
FITM
it like
part of the
that.
Hills?
Yeah, Lauren Conrad. She moved to LA to go to FITM.
Oh, really?
I actually was
Yeah.
looking into FITM too because I wanted to be
Yeah.
a fashion designer, and I heard like it's super cutthroat, and I was like, never mind.
It is expensive.
Yeah.
Is that why you ended up in LA? Because of FITM?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
okay.
you actually didn't go to the SF one?
I did. So I went there for
okay,
the
okay.
first year, and then for our second year, it was required that like because I guess they didn't have that major for the second year in San Francisco, which makes sense. I feel like
Yeah.
because like LA is like the hub for beauty and everything. So then I moved here, and then really loved it, and then I ended up staying here.
Oh wow. If we had a tagline for how we started our merch, it would be, "It all began with a t-shirt." It really did, though. It was one random evening meeting when we thought it'd be really cool if we can provide something additional for our listeners. Like, what can we create so they can feel like they own a physical item of ABG? And that idea was the mantra tee. The next part was figuring out how to put the shirt online so people could buy it, which is one of the most intimidating parts. Luckily, we turned to our creative entrepreneur friends for advice, and the choice was unanimous. They all said to go on Shopify. Shopify is a global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Whether you're selling printed designs to clothing, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system, wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. For us, one of the coolest memories I have is when we were able to see our first international sales come through from London to Canada, and it really hit us that the podcast reached audiences this far. Through Shopify, we're able to provide merch for them and connect with them through a different channel. It was for sure a milestone moment for us. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ABG, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ABG now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/ABG. You kind of mentioned this before, really, like how like now when little kids are asked like, what do you want to do for a living? They're like, I want to be a content creator. Back then, when someone asked you like, what do you do for a living? Like, how did you answer back then versus now?
I would say my answer is the same. I'm just like a YouTuber.
So you still say YouTuber today?
Yeah, but like I don't know if other like quote unquote influencers feel this way, but I don't even know how to really properly give myself a title because maybe it's like a little bit of the trauma of like when I was doing it and it was my job and I would tell people that like, oh, I make YouTube videos, and they're like, get a real job. So then there was always like this weird feeling of like, oh, are people gonna think I'm just like messing around and like not really like taking my life seriously? Like, and then now because there's so many content creators and then there's also kind of like sometimes there's like a negative feeling attached to that too, right? And so I always get worried, or maybe not worried. Worried is not the right word, but I just kind of get like, I don't even know how to explain it. It just feels like a weird thing to be like, yeah, I make content.
Yeah.
And then it always leads to like whenever I tell someone like, oh, I make YouTube videos, they'll be like, how many subscribers do you have?
Oh.
And then they're like, oh, show me your channel.
Look it up
Wait,
yourself.
seriously?
Yeah, that happens a lot. And then I think people start treating you differently when they're like, oh, wait, like,
They
you
like
have how many
legitimize it in
subscribers?
their mind what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's kind of
I
like the
see.
equivalent in corporate, like, oh, where do you work at?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Same
true.
thing.
That's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
I could see that.
I actually like that you say I'm a YouTuber because I understand the aversion of like, because nowadays I think a lot of creators, like when they hear the word influencer, it's like,
What are you influencing here?
yeah, it feels kind of weird to be like, I'm an influencer, but it's also at the end of the day, people also feel like, well, I'm a content creator. But I think for me, it's nice to hear that as an OG person on YouTube, you still call yourself a YouTuber.
Yeah.
I think it's nice.
And I think that nowadays people hear that and they think to themselves like, oh yeah, that is such a valid like career, and like,
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I hope so.
As long as like I'm like, as long as you're able to like, you know, keep things afloat and feed yourself, like good for you. You
Yeah.
know, like pursue that passion, pursue that dream. That's how I think when I hear
That's
it.
true. Yeah, sometimes I think we're just all like hard on ourselves because I think like if I met someone and I wasn't in this space and they're like, oh, I make content, I'll be like, cool.
Yeah.
You know, like I wouldn't think otherwise.
Exactly.
But I
Yeah.
think because I'm in the space myself, then I overthink it. And I'm like, oh, like people are going to, you know, think that this is weird, or like this is just like, what is she doing with her life? Yeah.
I hear you. Weylie, you are not the loser anymore, okay? You're incredible and you're killing it at your job for real.
Thank you.
Can I just say that your aesthetic is one of my favorites on the gram? How would you describe it? I would say it's like, I know you describe your style as grandma chic, which is such a cute way to describe like any sort of style. But I would say it's like ethereal, natural,
Cozy.
neutral, cozy. It's like you're in a coffee shop with like some cute Korean lo-fi beats playing in the background.
yeah, that is my
Right?
vibe.
And it's like a warm hug. That's what it feels like.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, I love your aesthetic. I
Thank
mean,
you.
digging into your mind as, I would say, like a professional in this space, because you've been doing this for 17 years now. You've been doing this for a long time. Like, how do you, I want to understand from concept to hitting publish. Like, what are you thinking through? Because clearly there's like a consistency and a certain vibe to your content. And I would think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think that that takes a lot of like planning, intention, and time. Going into the mind of Weylie as a content creator, like how do you go from concept to hitting publish?
I would say there's never that much planning. Yeah, like I think that's how I've always been too. Like there was no plan with the tampon video.
Yeah.
There was no plan of starting the YouTube channel in general.
yeah.
Like as cheesy as it sounds, I just try to live as authentically to myself as possible. You know, like whatever I feel at the moment, you know, or like whatever inspires me. But then there are times where I'll ask the audience, like, hey, like, what do you guys want to see?
Yeah.
And then, of course, there are times where I would like look at the analytics and I'm like, okay, this performed well. I guess people like this realm of content.
Yeah.
And then I'll kind of base it off of that. But in general, I would say even till this day, like sometimes I feel like I'm like not the most hardworking influencer, because I would meet influencers on trips and they have like a whole like calendar, like the whole like year planned out. And I'm just kind of going like a month at a time where I'm like, okay, what am I moved by this month? You know, like what's exciting this month, you know? That's generally how I go about life too. Like I'm so like laid back, I would say.
Yeah, that's
like,
nice.
Because I look at other people who have like huge goals and dreams, and I'm like, I just want to go for another camping trip.
Do you think that is why, like, that's the secret to your longevity on YouTube then, to be able to do this for so long? Is it like sometimes you just can't care as much?
I hope so. Yeah, maybe. Like sometimes I'll read comments and people tell me like, I love that I can feel that you're passionate about this. And I'm like, okay, great. You know, that's what I'm hoping for. Because definitely there has been times where I felt pressured to make a certain type of content because it was like really popular at the time. And there has been times where I tried to follow the trends, but it just leads to burnout really fast where I'm like, this doesn't feel like me.
Yeah. What are have you ever like reached a point of burnout with content creating?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah. How do you then serve yourself in like taking a step back or taking a break, or how do you manage that for yourself?
I would say like the good thing now is that I am creating content about the outdoors, which is something that I'm really passionate about and something I really love. So when I do feel burnt out, what helps is just actually continuing to film the trips, like planning another trip. So it's kind of like a treat where, and that's why I feel so grateful to be doing this, because when I am burnt out from my job, it is also what I do for my job that relieves the burnout. Like going outdoors and then filming that, that really helps like inspire me. And like, I feel so happy doing that. So I would say anytime I feel burnout, I ask myself like, well, is it because you're doing something you don't like? You know, most of the time the answer is yes. It's like, okay, I'm doing something that is just trending. It's not really me. But then right now, I think this era of my channel, I've just been really enjoying, because even though I would say like, I noticed that the engagement has decreased, and that tends to happen to me every time there's like a switch of the category of content that I'm posting. Because then some people who've subscribed in the past for maybe beauty or fashion, they're like, this isn't what I signed up for, and so I don't relate to this, and then maybe they'll stop watching. And so I think that's how you have to evolve too in the space, because you have to kind of let go of that control of like, okay, I'm going to lose viewership. I'm mentally preparing myself for that, but I also need to follow what I enjoy doing. Otherwise, I'm going to feel burnt out, and hope that because I'm following what I enjoy, that new audience will pick up on it. Yeah.
I love that.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's almost like you have to brace yourself. It's like, well, I want to do me, so I'm just going to put it out there and then see what happens. Try not to read the comments and just go on with, you know, serving myself and what makes me happy and fills my own cup.
I feel like the more I grow up, I realize that actually in every industry, it's kind of like that too, right? It's like there's always that period where you have to brace yourself for a change, whether it's, let's say you work in a corporate job and you want to move to the next position. There's always going to be that shift and that part that's like uncomfortable and feeling like, oh, I'm not going to do a good job at this. But then if you continue to stay where you're unhappy, then you're only going to burn yourself out, and then everyone around you is going to suffer from it, right? So yeah.
All right, ABG listeners, this is Janet, and I'm about to go big sister on you. It is about halfway through the year now, and I'm wondering, have you had your annual physical? If you're turning in your seat, looking down or away because you know you haven't, it's okay. I would just like to urge you to get on that task. And if you're currently looking for a new doctor, might I suggest checking out ZocDoc? It's a free app and website where you can search and compare highly rated in-network doctors near you and instantly book appointments with them online. You can filter specifically for ones who take your insurance, are located near you, and treat basically any condition you're looking for. If you're looking for a primary physician, they got that. An optometrist, that too. A gynecologist, also check. They have verified reviews from actual real patients, which is my favorite part. And the typical wait time to see a doctor booked on ZocDoc is just 24 to 72 hours. And you can even score same-day appointments. I've used ZocDoc and you should too. Go to ZocDoc.com/ABG and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/ABG. ZocDoc.com/ABG.
Well, I still want to ask you because I feel like, again, like your aesthetic is something that I love so much. And I'm sure like all the girlies out there also want to know. It's like, do you carry around like a camera at all times? Because it sounds like a lot of your content is more spontaneous and it's just like whenever you feel like whipping it out and taking photos and documenting like what is happening in your life. What are your like top tools to have with you on you at all times?
So I used to be one of those influencers where I brought a camera around everywhere. I'm just like, oh, every day is an opportunity. I might have to shoot some content here.
Yeah.
But I think like social media has evolved a lot too, where now people want to see like a more natural, just like what's the word, candid. Yeah, like a candid view of your life. And so I haven't really brought around my camera. The camera, like my professional camera, I find that I use that when I feel like creating something like more artistic, because I do really enjoy photography. Like I do enjoy that aspect, especially like photographing nature. Whenever I go camping, I would say that's when I bust out the camera, because I actually want to document these places in like a nice way.
Yeah.
But then
And which camera is that?
That one is my Leica Q2, my baby.
Like a Q2. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that was my investment.
Okay.
That was like a dream camera. And I think since getting that one, I'm like, I'm not buying any other camera. I like sold my other cameras to pay for that one.
wow, okay.
Wow.
It's such an amazing camera.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of times people will ask me like, oh, what camera do you recommend? And I feel bad like even saying that that's what I use, because it's a very like expensive camera.
So expensive. I haven't even heard of it.
Yeah, and like,
Q2.
and I don't want people thinking that, oh, you need to have really expensive gear in order to create content, because there are people that create amazing content with their phone.
Yeah.
You know, I think what I've learned with content creation, it's more of the story you're telling rather than the equipment that you're using. So most of the time, I would say I use my phone now. Yeah, I use the Google Pixel.
Oh, yeah. You have good
love
photos.
it. I love it. So I use my phone a lot. And in terms of cameras, I actually, even now for vlogging, I just use like a point and shoot.
Yeah. Which point and shoot do you use?
I think it's the Canon G5X Mark II.
I think I have the same one.
Yeah, it's so old now.
It's so long. Yeah.
It's so old now, but it's just, I try to focus more on like, what are you trying to tell?
Yeah.
Rather than the gear
Yeah.
you're using.
And then in terms of editing, what are you using to edit?
Good old Final Cut.
Final Cut.
Just good old
Okay.
Final Cut
Okay.
Pro.
Nice. I feel like your coloring is also really good in your framing. Of your,
thank
I know
you.
we're going
I know we're going in details, but
you
this is
know.
what I want to know.
But even
you.
the coloring you do, I was like, oh, that's really nice. Actually, I love what you said about the evolving with your content, because I do think that like, I think even when we felt this way, when we like decided to go full time with ABG, there's a little bit of pushback, because I feel like we're kind of losing that identity of like, we work 9 to 5 as corporate people, and then there was a little bit like, oh, like, will I relate to you anymore? And I think for me personally, I was like, it's hard for me to let go of that feeling of like, oh no, we're gonna lose people. But at the same time, what you mentioned about like, you kind of have to like lean into like where you are in life and your like joys, because there's going to be more longevity that way. And I think the people that like resonate are still going to be there, and then the new people will come anyway.
For sure. For sure.
I mean, I honestly like got exposed to more camping because of your new camping. Really? Yeah.
That makes me happy.
Yeah, I think the one you guys were in, like, you're in Canada, and I was like, oh wow, this is beautiful. Like getting some. I'm not a nature girly, but maybe I can be. So you know, I think
I know, in your Jeep too.
Yeah.
It's like so decked out. I'm like, I want to see it. Is it here?
It's not. It needs to go to the mechanic again.
Oh no. Okay.
It's my money pit.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks cool.
It's so old. So there's always something wrong with it. My friends are like, oh, it's at the shop again. I'm like, yeah,
it's
yes, it is. It's okay.
Your baby, I'll take
You
care
know?
of it.
Yeah, exactly. I think like the older I get too, like that this is why I'm such a grandma, because I really appreciate old things. Like I don't want, like, when something gets old, this is why I'm kind of a hoarder, but I don't like to just throw it away just because it's old. I almost find more value in it the older it gets. And so when I bought the Jeep, oh my God, the amount of comments I got from people saying like, oh, you're good luck, you're gonna need it. And I'm like, it's fine. That's what I signed myself up for.
Yeah.
Like I know there's gonna be problems, but the cool part is that then I'm learning about it. You know, I feel like, you know, we all drive, especially if you live in like the States,
Yeah.
right? But most of us only know how to put gas in our car.
Guilty.
And I was the
Guilty.
same way too. Like I
Yeah.
knew nothing about it. And not that you have to, because, you know, if you have warranty or whatever, you know,
yeah.
it's fine. It's not something you have to know. But I think like as I got older, just something clicked where I'm like, I want to know how things work.
Yeah.
Like I want to know like how like how to change my oil, or like
yeah,
how to
I mean, you put a video up kind of recently too about, and I saw you like changing the door of your car to soundproof it, was it?
Yeah.
And then like changing all the fluids and changing out the little jar thing. I don't even know the right words, but it looked really cool.
For me, it's like very intimidating.
I would just be worried that something would blow up in my face.
Yeah.
Maybe because the cartoons that we used to watch would show people fixing cars and things blowing up in their face, and it all like soot and like all the black on their face.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I still have my questions too. Like I recently did my own radiator fluid flush. And I was like, okay, we're just going to look up a YouTube video. You know, let's try this out. And I did it. And then I brought it to my mechanic. I'm like, hey, how'd I do? And he was like, you got to do it again. It's not like really clean. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll do it again. But at least like I learned how to do it, right?
Yeah.
And so if it happens again, or like if, I don't know, it happens to Wa's car, it's like, oh, hey, like we know how to do this.
That's true.
Yeah.
Dang, you're so that's really resourceful. I'm over here YouTubing every time when my what's that, the service light comes on. I'm like, how do I turn this off? Literally, that
Girl, you go to a mechanic. That's what you do.
sometimes you turn it off. I don't.
What do you mean you turn it off yourself? It's on for a
or
reason.
the air pressure light. Anyway, sorry, this is off topic. But I'm just really, when it comes to cars, I'm just like, I don't. When I go to a mechanic, I'm like, I'm here to get my car serviced. Whatever that means.
Yeah, and then you hit on your service person.
That was a few years ago.
Ooh.
He's in K-Town. Yeah, he's no longer there. Anyway.
Do you know what the secret is to keep a baby's skin healthy? The secret is a diaper that doesn't leave skin wet. You've heard me talk about Pampers Swaddlers on our podcast many, many times now, and that's because Pampers Swaddlers is the diaper for healthy baby skin. Pampers Swaddlers absorbs wetness better than the leading value brand and provides up to 100% leak-proof skin protection and up to 0% skin irritation. And if you're a fan of Pampers, you've got to check out their new Pampers Free and Gentle wipes, which clean better than Huggies Natural Care and are 5 times stronger, so they resist tearing during a diaper change. With Free and Gentle, mess meets its match. And if you're like me and you love saving and getting rewarded for something you gotta buy anyway, like diapers, don't forget to download the Pampers Club app today and earn Pampers Cash. You can redeem your Pampers Cash for exclusive Pampers coupon savings and rewards. Try Swaddlers with new Pampers Free and Gentle wipes for healthy baby skin. For trusted protection, trust Pampers, the #1 pediatrician recommended brand.
Okay, so I think nowadays, social media has definitely evolved to a point where there's so many different channels now. You have the most presence on YouTube and Instagram. How did you decide to like stick with those two platforms? Like, have you been tempted to try different ones, especially with like TikTok now and like what, Labs? I don't know.
There's another one?
I don't know if I would consider
Lord.
Labs. It's more like I guess it is a photo journal.
It's like another one to manage though.
Yeah.
So like
I didn't even know about this.
I'm still learning, but I think for you, it's like.
You mean more like TikTok then?
Yeah,
because
TikTok.
is
Do you ever
the
want
other
to-
bigger one?
Yeah, but do you ever want to go on TikTok or other platforms?
I think I felt pressured to because everyone was doing it, and then my management company was telling me like, oh, this is the next thing, like you should get on it. And then I made an account. I think I posted like one TikTok or something, but I don't know. Like I think like going back to the whole like I feel like I'm not a very like prepared YouTuber. I don't know what the word is. Like I know some people take it really extremely seriously and they have a whole team.
Yeah.
For me, it's literally me and my management company, and like we talk over text and like we discuss things. But in my mind, YouTube was never like how do I like completely optimize this in the best way possible so that I could be like extremely successful. Actually reaching extreme success on YouTube actually freaks me out a little bit. Like I actually don't want that. I'm very grateful for where I'm at, and I think my goal now is to just like keep it where it's at, I think with this level of exposure that I have, it's like it's just the right amount, where I still feel like I have genuine connection with people.
Yeah.
I'm not just like another figure with like a lot of viewers. Yeah, like I think that would just put too much pressure on me. Not that it's a bad thing. It would put too much pressure on me because I think I'm a very fragile person. And I can't handle too much like attention, which is weird. I know that sounds weird because it's like, oh, if you don't want the attention, why are you doing this? It's like a weird thing where because sometimes you don't realize that it's actually reaching a lot of people. It feels like I'm just filming myself. I'm just doing this. And I don't have coworkers, so I feel alone most of the time. I feel like I'm just doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And I still have, like 17 years later, I still have a hard time wrapping my head around like, oh, but actually it's reaching a lot of people.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I do have like that one viral video, it always ends up reaching like really mean people. And it's just like people that you just didn't ask for.
Yeah.
And so that level of attention actually gives me a lot of stress. So I think my goal now is to just kind of like keep doing what you're doing. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, tweak it a little bit and like, you know, keep trying is like my thing. Sorry, I don't know if that answered your question.
It does. I think overall, it sounds like you're like ethos is like you just want to keep doing things that stay true to who you are. And then as you evolve, your content's going to evolve with you. But you're not trying to make this like a huge strategy, this big like empire kind of thing. But you're doing it purely for your enjoyment too.
Yeah. So like, oh, right. And then going back to like the TikTok thing, it's, yeah, like I think it would be a great way to grow and like reach a new audience. But then I find that I feel spread too thin. And then I feel like my whole life will then revolve around making content. And I don't ever want it to feel not genuine. Like I don't want it to feel like there's such a strategy behind it. Yeah. And so YouTube long form content, I feel like is where I connect with people the most, you know, because I don't know, like sometimes when I watch like a IG thing, and if it's over a minute, I'm like, oh, too long.
Yeah.
But then on YouTube, for some reason, it's like, oh, it feels like a warm hug. Like I want to listen to what you have to say. It almost feels like, in a way, like a podcast, right? You really get to know someone. You really like get to understand the whole picture. Versus short form, I think it is really good in terms of like growing your content quickly, but it leaves a lot out.
I can see that.
Honestly, I feel like that is probably why you've been able to do this for so long. Like, yes, you say you've been through burnout and it is hard sometimes, but because you're sticking true to who you are, and because it's almost like even though you have, you know, a good amount of like followers and people who watch all of your videos, it's like they're all your best friends. They're all like friends for you and people who support you, and you're not seeking the attention of just everyone, right? You're like, I'm just gonna keep my little community here, and if there's more people that come in, come on in. Let's play nice. You know? And I feel like that's what also will give you that like sense of balance in your like mental state to like continue doing this for so long. And if it's like you're out there seeking numbers, that's an easy way to burn out for sure.
And I think it's just, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way too, because with social media, just this whole industry, it's very numbers based. And so you always feel like you need to chase a higher number. And if I'm being completely honest, there are moments where, especially if it's like, let's say a sponsored post, and I feel like, oh, I need to perform for this company who hired me, then there is a pressure around like, ugh, like how do I make this better? So it's not that I just go about it blindly completely. I do definitely think about like, okay, well, what do people want to see? Like how do I integrate this so that it feels like me? But then also on the flips, like on the other end of it, if you focus on the numbers too much, then you place all of your value on your numbers, you know? And I don't think that's healthy either.
For sure.
Yeah, you're very aware of like yourself, and I don't know, I'm just like noticing this as I'm just, you know, hearing you speak.
I think this industry makes everyone hyper aware. If you're in this industry long enough and you're catching what you're saying, or like people are pointing out things that you're saying all the time and picking it apart. Like sometimes I can say one thing and that's not even what I meant, but then someone interpreted it differently. And so then it makes me really aware. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, because sometimes I'm like, should I have said that? And then I overthink it. But thank you.
Well, Weylie, you've been on YouTube since 2007, and your content has definitely evolved. I know you love camping and sharing your current, I guess, like state, but do you have a favorite era when you think about your YouTube channel and yourself?
I mean, I really liked every era, honestly, because it was just what I enjoyed at the time. I actually was one of those YouTubers that did not delete my old content for the longest time, because I think a lot of people, as they evolved, they started removing some of their old content. I only recently started removing those because I would watch it and honestly cringe, like it just gives me cringe, and I'm like, I don't want to see this. But for a long time, like, you know, people would ask me, they're like, oh, why do you still leave it up? Like, doesn't it make you cringe? But I'm like, I mean, well, yeah, even if somebody wanted to pick apart something I said or like what I did during that period of my life, I mean, it is what it is, because that's just who I was, you know, like, well, you know what we all grow up and we all evolve. Yeah, it's just part of growing up. So there's no shame in that. So I actually did enjoy every era because every single one, it was just what I resonated with at the time. And every era, I just really loved it. And right now, I would say if I had to choose a favorite era, I would pick now because this is what I love right now. So I really enjoy like this era of me, of posting about the outdoors, going camping, and just taking a slower approach at life.
Yeah. I like that a lot. So you're in your slow girl era phase.
Slow girl era, yes.
Of life.
My peaceful girl era.
Yes. Random question. What is the best and worst thing about camping? Just trying to get some camping enthusiasts out there.
Let's see. Well, the best part is like the adventure, right? Like getting to see a new place, and it's just like, it's just so nice for you mentally. Like, I don't know if you guys ever felt that feeling. I feel like such a hippie for saying this, but it's like you get to like, I don't know, the top of the mountain or whatever. You drive all day and you finally get to the spot, and you're just like, wow, like that's why I hiked here, or like that's why I drove here. It's because of this. It's the feeling that you get when you're outdoors. It's very freeing, and you feel like accomplished too, because it's like I put in the effort to be here. So I would say like the views, you know, the experience, the journey, like all of it. That's like the best part. And also who you spend it with. Like I'm so glad that my friends, they all love the outdoors too. So it's something that we share together. And so I love that. And then I would say like the worst part is probably the bugs. Like like camping during the summertime it's just mosquito heaven. You know, you're just mosquito food essentially. So that's like the part that I don't like about it, when the mosquitoes are out. But thankfully, when it's cold or if it's windy or like really high elevation, there is not a lot of mosquitoes. So I kind of plan accordingly too, just based on like what I've experienced in the past. It's like, okay, I know not to go here during this time of year because the mosquitoes are going to go crazy. Or like you just bring things like mosquito nets and stuff like that. But still, it's like, it's not enjoyable when you're just like doing this the whole time. So I try to go when it's cooler and the mosquitoes aren't as active.
Good tip. Good tip.
I thought you were going to say, instead of bugs, I should say bathroom. That's always my fear. It's like, where do you go?
Yeah, actually, so... Yeah, maybe very hippie of me to say this, but I've done all types of camping where there's toilets sometimes, and sometimes there are no toilets and you dig a hole. You would be surprised that like, and so many people are like, like I can't do that. But you would actually be surprised. I promise you. After you've done it once, you're just like, oh, this is actually just very,
it's so natural.
It's just natural. Like you're squatting, which is like the optimal position.
I don't squat actually
fertilizer
really well.
Yes, you do.
No, I really don't. It's just, we'll talk about this offline. But it just, I don't, you know.
Although I can't envision you squatting and taking
I don't want you to see me squat. That's weird.
Do you remember, like, did you guys go to Asia when you were younger, and like how the toilets, like you have to squat?
Sometimes it's like a river that, you know, just kind of flows through and collects. It just, very descriptive. but
then now I'm like, our ancestors knew what they were doing. Because the squatting position is the optimal position to poop. It really is, because it's just something to do with the anatomy of how our bodies are. And when you're angled that way, it just flows better.
Flows right out.
It truly does.
Hey, I mean,
I know.
You know.
I need a bidet. I need all that stuff. I'm just saying.
Then you have to go camping in Japan. When I recently camped, they have bidets. I was like, this is a next level luxury. Yeah, in Japan. They take glamping to the next level.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, you could definitely.
I will glamp, maybe not camp.
Yeah, they have showers. You'll be good.
Okay, let's go. I'll do that.
All right, so 17 years as a content creator. I'm going to ask you some of your favorite memories of all the 17 years.
Wow,
okay.
Hopefully I remember.
A pinch me moment.
A pinch me moment?
Yeah.
Like a surreal moment?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Not like someone actually came up to you and like pinched the crap out of you, no.
I would say like the first time I really experienced that was when I went to Singapore for like a work trip.
Okay.
And I think like right before I boarded the plane, I just like took a picture of my boarding pass, you know, like the classic photo of traveling, right? And then we landed in Singapore like in the middle of the night or something like that. Just like at an odd hour where I wouldn't expect anybody to be at the airport. And when Juan and I got off the plane, or not off the plane, but when Juan and I got out of the gates, there was like, I don't know, like maybe 30 people waiting for us, welcoming us to Singapore.
So nice.
And I was like, wait, like, how do they even know? So I guess maybe because based on my boarding pass, they looked at my flight, and then they found out like when I was going to arrive. And it was like the warmest welcome. Yeah, oh my gosh, like Singapore, anytime someone asked me like, oh, what was like the best like meet and greet experience, I would always say Singapore, because just they're so nice. And it just feels like, maybe because we speak the same language too, there's just this level of connection, I feel. So that was definitely a pinch me moment. I was like, people picking me up at the airport, like, who am I?
Shivers just hearing this. Like, that is incredible.
I'm like, you guys, like the fact that they don't all know each other. It was just like,
oh shoot.
Yeah, it was just like random like groups of people who saw that and decided to show up to just welcome us to their country.
That is so
and
cool.
so that was really definitely a pinch me moment. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wait, what?
So cool.
You guys care?
Yeah.
To like be here?
Dang.
What is a moment that made you cry?
Oh my gosh, so many moments. But I will share one that was most recent, and hopefully I don't cry sharing it. But every time that I meet my viewers, I would say like I'm so thankful that they are just so genuine. Like it feels like we've just known each other for a long time. And recently I've just been like grieving a lot because my dogs passed away about a year ago, and I'm still going through the emotions. And then I bumped into a girl while I was having lunch. She comes up to me with her husband, and she shared that she lost her dog around the same time that my dogs passed away. And we just connected on that. And then she said something that was so nice. She was like, hey, like, I noticed you haven't been posting as much, but I just want you to know, you take your time. She was like, grieving is hard. And like, I'm sure people that care about you, they will understand. And like, you don't need to worry about posting so much. Oh my God, like I instantly started crying in front of her. I'm just like, that is so nice for someone to say, because being in the space, there are people that will criticize you for being like, oh, you're not posting enough. So-and-so is posting this many times. And then you kind of feel like, oh, am I supposed to be on that scale as well? Like, where am I supposed to be at? You know, what defines me as a hardworking YouTuber? Or like, what defines me as like a good YouTuber? Like, what if I do need a mental health break? Is that bad? Like, am I undeserving of this? All the emotions, right? And so for someone to notice that, like observe that just from watching my videos, like I notice you've been down, I know you're going through it, you know, but just know. And she was like being my mom. She was like, just know it's okay, like like you take your time. Oh, like it just felt so touching. And so I just bawled in front of her. And that happened recently too. It was like 3 months ago, I think.
That's so reassuring, but also feeling so seen in that moment.
Yeah. And also like very undeserving of that too. It's just like, why are you so nice to me? You know? Yeah.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Your fans
so
love you.
sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A moment that you're glad you memorialized with video.
I would say all the ones with my grandparents. Yeah. It's nice to look back on, because I don't think much of it at the time when I'm filming it. But then recently, like I went back to an old video of my grandparents, and I'm like, oh my God, they look so much younger. And I'm glad that I documented that. Yeah, I would say like the family ones, those I'm really glad to document. And my dogs too.
Yeah. I think that's probably the best part about like creating content, and just, even like we did YouTube for a little bit. It's hard. It's hard. It's a lot of filming. It's a lot of editing. But when we go back and look at it, we're like, oh my gosh, we look so young. It wasn't even that long ago. But I can't imagine for you like starting at 15 and capturing all these memories of, you know, your dogs and your family and all of that. So yeah, that's beautiful.
I think it's also like, I know YouTube is like becoming like, it's a platform, but for these videos, they're essentially like our home videos now, because we're not like, I don't know, I feel like, do people do that nowadays? Like capture home videos? So I think the fact you're able to document like these last 17 years with your family, your friends, and your dogs, and just remember these experiences, like you always have something to look back on like years from now.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really like, in hindsight, you look back and you're like, oh, I'm glad I did this. Because sometimes at the moment when you're creating the content, you're like, oh, nobody cares about this. Like, oh, this isn't an interesting vlog. It's just me at home with my grandparents. But then when you do look back years later, I do feel that feeling of like, oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad I decided to vlog this trip. Because usually at the moment, I'm always like, nobody cares. Like, nobody cares what I'm doing.
You do it for yourself. I feel like a lot of this stuff you just do for yourself. Yeah, which is, I think, the best way to actually approach this this industry in this like world of content creation. Yeah,
thank you.
You gotta do it for yourself.
Weylie, one of your videos, you said to your listeners to get excited about the future you're building for yourself and get excited about your good retirement. What do you vision for your future, and how would you like to retire?
I would say like I'm one of those people where like my 5-year plan changes all the time.
Okay.
Like in my early 20s, like the 5-year plan was like, oh, I'm gonna live in a high-rise building in the big city, and then now I'm like, oh, I want to like move to a cabin, you know, or like I could move into a van and like live in a van. Like I would say like, in terms of retirement, of course, I think we all strive to have a good retirement, right? Where we have enough saved, where if we did get sick, we can take care of ourselves, or like we could take care of our family. So I always try to like set myself up in that way where it's like, okay, I'm contributing to my SEP IRA account, you know, I'm contributing to my Roth and like my brokerage account. So I make those contributions and hope that like in the future I'm setting myself up correctly. And then in terms of like how I envision myself, I just hope I'm healthy. That's like, you know, it's just, of course, having money is very crucial, right? But I just hope that by then I'm happy, because I see a lot of older people, does that mean to say? Seniors, a lot of seniors. They're very unhappy, and I wonder why that is. Oftentimes I think it's maybe like family drama, you know, and some of them have money, some of them don't. But ultimately, like, if you don't have health and you don't have like a good relationship with people around you, whether you're rich or poor, it sucks. Yeah. So I just hope like that I'm setting myself up right, that like in the future, if I do have children, or if I do have like, you know, more generations behind me, that I can leave something for them. But ultimately, the most important to me is just like, I hope I'm happy, and I hope that people around me want to be around me. I hope my kids would like me. I hope like my grandkids like me, you know. I would rather have that than like a material thing.
Yeah. I love that answer.
Like when I was younger, I remember thinking, oh, well, everybody talks about like you need your vacation home when you're retired. Like that's the ultimate, right? But now I could care less. I would say like, I could live in a van, honestly. It's fine. Maybe my joints won't like it when I'm like 60, but that will figure itself out.
You'll get
right?
one of those like motorized chairs that come out and like pick you up into your seat.
That will sort itself out in the future.
You're on your path to like figuring out car stuff and figuring that out. So that's in your future. I love that answer though. And I think that's the same outlook for me too. It used to be like, oh yeah, well, I want a big house. But like if you're not happy in your house, then why have a big house? It's just going to feel empty.
Yeah. I see so many of my relatives where it's just like, well, your kids don't talk to you. You hate your siblings, and like I don't want to I don't want to live a life like that. Like, yeah, you have your designer car, you have your designer bags, you have these nice things that I think a lot of people from the outside will perceive as like, oh, you're so successful, but then you're actually really unhappy, and that's just sad. I don't want to live like that.
Well, what are you excited about for? I know you said 5 years is kind of long to think that far ahead, but what about for the next year?
For the next year?
If that's even too long, next month.
So I would say in the next year, I would want to continue like posting the type of content that I am. I want to explore more. I want to camp in different countries. I want to experience that. I just want to be more adventurous and like see the world in a slower way. So, like sometimes even just like me 5 years ago, I would say, oh, I want to travel to these big cities. And now I do still want to see the big cities, but I also want to experience like while I'm there, set aside a few days and like go to the nature side of it. You know, see like what their national parks are like. So I really want to see more of like other countries, but the slower side of things. You know?
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. I feel like your branding is so good. Like grandma chic in all the ways. In all the ways. Seriously.
I am such a grandma. Like in my group of friends, like I'm the one taking care of everybody on a night out. I'm the first one to be like, you guys want to go home? You know, my dogs are at home waiting.
Well, thank you, Weylie, so much for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure. We've been wanting to talk with you for a while on the podcast. So
thank you.
Thanks for making time.
I've been watching the podcast for so long. And so when you guys emailed me, I'm like, yes.
Oh, wait. And this is your first podcast ever?
Oh, yes.
You did an amazing job.
Thank you. I tried.
So good. So natural.
Yes.
Thank you.
Like you're talking to an old friend.
Yeah.
You guys make it easy. It's so like comfortable. You know what I've like noticed is like we've only hung out once, right? But like even before I met you girls, I thought, I could just be friends with them. Like I just felt this connection, and maybe that's what people feel when they watch videos from people.
Yeah.
But like from listening to the podcast or like following you guys on Instagram, I just felt like there was this connection. Maybe it's the being Asian.
But we feel the same way with you too.
Yeah,
for
just
sure.
so many topics you guys cover. I'm like, oh, I resonate with that. I get it.
Oh,
Yeah. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. Is there anything else you want to say to our listeners? Any like last words?
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Maybe not last, but words.
Some words. Well, thanks for listening to the ABG podcast. Make sure you continue to subscribe.
Oh, she's a pro. She's a
Outro.
pro.
I know, right? The outro, just sprinkle that in there. Make sure you like and rate it.
Yes.
Is that what they say?
Do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
But in terms of for myself, I would say just thank you so much for supporting my channel, following along, and whether you just joined now or maybe it's been many years, I just appreciate it so much because there's so much content to watch and we have the freedom to choose. And so for someone to watch my content, comment on it, engage with it, it just means a lot. It's very surreal to me still. And I know that sounds cheesy, but it really is. You know, it doesn't go unnoticed. And so thank you so much. And I just hope everyone continues to be happy, you know, like really just find what makes you happy. And I think that was kind of like the theme for today too. Just I think the way I've always navigated life is just like don't put so much pressure on yourself. It's natural to because everyone around us, you know, like, there's family, there's friends and peers that are telling you like, oh, how you should go about your life. But you're only going to be unhappy if you're living a life that's for other people. And so my biggest thing is just like take it a day at a time. Tomorrow's not promised. So just try to be happy, you know, like try to figure out what it is that really feeds your soul and what are you doing that's actually contributing to your happiness. That's my biggest message, I would say.
love that.
Yeah.
That was great.
That was like a warm soup. Sorry. I was just like,
Warm soup.
Ooh, warm
You say a
soup.
warm
That sounds
hug.
good.
A warm soup. Thank you again so much, Weylie, for being here with us today. And we will catch you all in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.